Not everyone who smiles at you is your friend, and sometimes the ones clapping the loudest for you are actually waiting for you to fail. The signs aren't always loud. In fact, they're usually so quiet you'll miss them unless you know what to look for. When someone downplays your achievements, it's rarely loud and obvious. It's often subtle, almost casual, and that's what makes it so damaging. You work hard for something, late nights, sacrifices, maybe even years of consistency, and when you finally reach that milestone, you expect at least some excitement from the people around you. But instead of genuine joy, hear phrases like, "Oh, that's nice," or "Yeah, but isn't that what you were supposed to do?" They don't outright insult you. Strip the weight off your accomplishment so it feels lighter, smaller, less worthy of celebration. This behavior says a lot about the person delivering it. Sometimes they're projecting their own insecurities. Your success might remind them of what they haven't achieved. So instead of celebrating with you, they try to minimize it. Other times, it's about control. If they make your big moments seem ordinary, they can keep you from feeling too proud or too confident, because confident people are harder to manipulate. The tricky part is these comments are often delivered with a smile or wrapped in a joke. That's why it's so easy to miss the intent behind them. They might say, "Don't get too excited. It's just a promotion," or "Anyone could have done that if they had the opportunity." They might even bring up someone else's achievement in the same breath. So your win doesn't get to stand on its own. The goal isn't to attack you directly. It's to chip away at your joy little by little until celebrating feels awkward. Over time, hearing this can start to change the way you view your own progress. You might hesitate to share good news because you don't want to deal with the reaction. You might even start second guessing whether your achievements are truly worth celebrating. That's the real danger, when their voice starts becoming your inner voice. The reality is, anyone who truly cares about you will understand the value of your milestones, no matter how small or big they seem from the outside. They'll see the effort you put in and acknowledge it. When someone consistently refuses to do that, it's a reflection of them, not you. It reveals a lack of empathy, an undercurrent of resentment, or simply a competitive spirit that can't stand seeing you win. It's important to pay attention to patterns here. If someone occasionally gets distracted and doesn't give the reaction you hoped for, that might just be timing. But if every single one of your achievements is met with deflection, comparison, or minimization, you're dealing with something deeper. That's not accidental. That's a habit. And habits have roots. So what do? You don't need to argue with them or try to convince them your achievement matters. That's wasted energy. You also don't need their validation to know your worth. Instead, focus on building a circle of people who understand how to celebrate without competition, who can be genuinely happy for you without feeling threatened. The truth is, your achievements will mean more when shared with people who match your excitement. And if you can't entirely remove the person who downplays your success, maybe they're a coworker, a family member, or someone you see often, then you create emotional distance. You limit how much you share with them, not because you're hiding, but because you're protecting something valuable, your joy. Achievements aren't just markers of progress, they're fuel for your motivation. And letting someone dim that light over and over again isn't humility, it's self-sabotage. You earned your wins. Whether they clap for you or not, you get to celebrate them fully. And the moment you stop needing their applause, you'll notice their opinions have less power over you. That's when you truly win. There's a certain kind of person who seems to disappear when life is good for you, but suddenly becomes very present when things go wrong. When you're winning, they're quiet. No calls, no texts, no congratulations. But the moment you hit a rough patch, they're front and center, ready to listen, ready to help, ready to be involved. On the surface, it might seem like they're just being supportive in hard times. But when you look closely, you notice a pattern. They're not there because they want to lift you up. They're there because your failure makes them feel better about themselves. For some people, Your success is a reminder of what they're not doing or haven't achieved. It can stir up feelings of jealousy, inadequacy, or competition. So they avoid being around you when things are going well because it's uncomfortable for them. But when you fail, that balance shifts. Suddenly, you're not a threat. You're not ahead. You're vulnerable. And for them, that's easier to be around. Some even take a strange comfort in seeing you struggle because it reassures them they're not the only one facing challenges. You'll notice this in the way they engage during those low moments. They might ask a lot of questions, not out of empathy, but out of curiosity, the kind that wants the details of your downfall. They might offer advice that sounds more like criticism, as if they're using your hardship as a chance to remind you of what you should have done. Sometimes they'll even subtly highlight your mistake in front of others under the disguise of just trying to help. It's not that you shouldn't have people around who care when you're struggling. True friends and supportive people will absolutely show up in those times. The difference is those same people will also be there to celebrate your wins. They'll clap for you in good seasons and stand by you in bad ones. The ones who only appear when you're down aren't offering balanced support. They're feeding off imbalance. This dynamic can be draining because it keeps you locked in a cycle where you associate certain people with your pain. You might even unconsciously share more of your struggles than your successes just to keep their attention. Over time, that's dangerous. It can create relationships built on weakness rather than strength, where you're only valued when you're in need, not when you're thriving. Protect yourself from this. You have to be intentional about who gets access to your struggles. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your challenges. If someone can't celebrate your good moments with the same energy they bring to your bad ones, they don't deserve that level of trust. Doesn't mean you cut everyone off the moment you notice this pattern, but it does mean you reevaluate how much space they occupy in your life. Sometimes the healthiest choice is quiet distance. You don't have to announce that you've noticed their pattern. You simply stop relying on them as a primary source of support. You shift your energy toward people who can handle all sides of your story. The highs, the lows, and everything in between. Life is going to have enough challenges without surrounding yourself with people who secretly benefit from your setbacks. When you identify who truly supports you in every season, you'll find that your resilience grows. Because real strength isn't just having people to catch you when you fall. It's having people who also help you keep climbing. And those are the ones worth keeping close. One of the most common ways people express hidden resentment or dislike is by disguising insults as jokes. It's a tactic that allows them to say something hurtful while maintaining plausible deniability. They can hit you with a sting and then quickly retreat behind a laugh, saying, "Relax, I was just kidding," or "You're too sensitive." This way, they get to deliver the message they truly want to say, but avoid taking responsibility for it. Over time, these jokes can do more damage than outright criticism because they leave you questioning yourself, wondering if you're overreacting or if you really are the problem. The delivery is often casual, but the impact is sharp. They might comment on your appearance with a smirk, saying, "Wow, nice outfit, bold choice." They might downplay your hard work by joking, "Must be nice to have so much free time to do that," or "Wes, luck was on your side." And when you confront them, they'll flip it back on you, acting like you don't understand humor. This puts you in a position where you either accept the insult to avoid looking uptight, or you defend yourself and risk being seen as someone who can't take a joke. The reason this tactic works so well for them is because it's socially awkward to call out every small comment, especially when others are laughing along. They know it's unlikely you'll confront them in the moment, so the behavior continues. And the more it happens, the more normalized it becomes. Soon, these disguised insults slip into everyday conversation, and you're left feeling a little smaller each time without fully realizing why. People who use humor as a weapon often do so for two reasons: to mask insecurity or to maintain control. If they can make you feel just a little unsure about yourself, they gain a subtle advantage in the relationship. They can keep you off balance, second guessing your choices and less likely to outshine them. And if they're insecure, your confidence or achievements might feel threatening to them. So they chip away at it with humor that's anything but harmless. The key to dealing with this is recognizing the difference between good, natured teasing and toxic joking. Healthy humor builds connection. It makes both people feel good and understood. Toxic humor tears down, often targeting sensitive areas you've never given permission to joke about. And the biggest giveaway is consistency. If the jokes are always at your expense, always making you the punchline, it's not just their sense of humor, it's their attitude toward you. Once you see the pattern, you have a choice. You can set boundaries by addressing the comment directly without matching their tone. A calm, straightforward response like, "I don't find that funny," or "That's not a joke to me," takes away their ability to hide behind humor. You can also choose to limit how much you share with them, especially about topics they tend to weaponize. What you shouldn't do is internalize their words. The way someone jokes about you says more about them than it does about you. People who respect you will avoid humor that consistently undermines you. People who don't will keep using it as a shield for their true feelings. When you stop laughing along to protect their comfort, you start protecting your own dignity. And while they might accuse you of being too serious, what you're really doing is refusing to be the butt of someone's disguised hostility. That's not losing your sense of humor. That's refusing to lose yourself. Selective support is one of the most confusing and frustrating behaviors you can encounter in relationships. It's when someone chooses when and how to back you up, often in ways that make them look supportive without actually being consistent. In public, they might praise you, post about your achievements, or compliment you in front of others. But in private, they question your decisions, plant seeds of doubt, or even discourage you from pursuing what you're excited about. The result is a relationship that feels unpredictable. You never quite know whether they're on your side or quietly working against you. This kind of inconsistency can be more damaging than outright opposition because it messes with your sense of trust. If someone openly criticizes you all the time, you know where you stand. But when they sometimes cheer for you and sometimes undercut you, you're left guessing about their true intentions. That guessing game eats away at your confidence because you start basing your moves on whether they'll approve this time or not. Selective support is often about control. By deciding when to stand behind you and when to withdraw, they keep you dependent on their validation. You may even find yourself over-explaining your choices or trying to win their approval before making a move. This dynamic can hold you back from opportunities simply because you're worried about how they'll respond. One of the clearest signs of selective support is the difference between their public and private behavior. They might be quick to celebrate your achievements where others can see, not because they're genuinely happy, but because it boosts their own image. Being associated with your success makes them look good, but behind closed doors, they might say things like, "Are you sure you can handle that?" Or, "Don't you think you're aiming too high?" They might remind you of your past mistakes, subtly framing your progress as fragile or temporary. Another form of selective support is backing you up only when it doesn't cost them anything. They will root for you when it's convenient, but if supporting you would require them to take a risk, stand up for you in a conflict, or make a sacrifice, they suddenly go silent. This tells you that their loyalty is conditional. It exists as long as it doesn't interfere with their own comfort or goals. The tricky part is that these people often believe they are supportive because they can put moments where they've been in your corner. But true support isn't occasional or situational. It's not about being loud in the spotlight and quiet in the shadows. Real support shows up even when it's uncomfortable, even when no one else is watching. To protect yourself, you need to pay attention to patterns, not isolated moments. Instead of asking, "Were they there for me that one time?" Ask, are they consistently present for me in ways that matter? If the answer is no, you need to adjust your expectations and the level of access they have to your personal life. It's also important to surround yourself with people who are steady. Those who can celebrate you without competition, challenge you without tearing you down, and back you up without keeping score are rare, but they exist. Once you experience that kind of support, you'll realize how heavy selective support feels in comparison. You deserve relationships where you don't have to wonder if someone's in your corner. When you stop chasing approval from those who offer it only on their terms, you make room for people who give it freely, consistently, and without hidden agendas. And that's the kind of support that truly helps you grow. Subtle competition is one of those things that can sneak into a relationship without you realizing it at first. Doesn't always look like open rivalry or blatant one-upmanship. Instead, it hides behind casual comments, small comparisons, and a constant need to match or slightly outdo whatever you've achieved. You share a win, and instead of just celebrating it, they quickly pivot to talking about something they've done. Something that feels just a little bigger, a little better, or a little more impressive. This kind of behavior isn't always malicious, but it is revealing. It often comes from insecurity. When someone can't celebrate you without bringing themselves into the conversation, it's a sign they measure their worth against yours. Your progress feels like a scoreboard to them, and in their mind, falling behind means losing. Instead of seeing your achievements as inspiration, they see them as a challenge. It can show up in very subtle ways. You tell them you've started going to the gym, and the next day they mention they've just signed up for a better membership at a more exclusive place. You mention you're learning a new skill, and suddenly they're talking about how they've already mastered something similar. You get a small promotion, and they casually bring up how they're in line for something even bigger. On the surface, it may sound like normal conversation, but when it happens consistently, start to notice the pattern. Every win you have triggers a counter move from them. The tricky part about subtle competition is that it can disguise itself as motivation. They might frame their behavior as pushing each other to be better, but it doesn't feel like healthy encouragement. True encouragement celebrates you without needing to make it about them. Subtle competition, on the other hand, leaves you feeling like your moment was stolen, like the spotlight shifted before you even had a chance to enjoy it. Over time, being around someone who is constantly competing with you can drain your energy. You might find yourself downplaying your successes just to avoid triggering their response. You may even stop sharing certain things with them altogether. That's because deep down, you know the conversation won't be about genuine happiness for you. It'll be about them finding a way to level the scoreboard. In healthy relationships, there's room for both people to win without comparison. Your success doesn't take away from theirs, and their success doesn't threaten yours. But when someone is stuck in a competitive mindset, they can't see it that way. They're so focused on keeping up that they miss the chance to simply enjoy your progress as a friend, family member, or partner. To protect your peace, you need to set boundaries around what you share with people who do this. Not every achievement needs to be public, and not everyone deserves a front row seat to your life. By being intentional about what you reveal, you reduce the opportunities for them to turn your wins into their personal contests. You can't force someone out of a competitive mindset. That's work they have to do themselves. But you can control how much their behavior affects you. When you stop playing their unspoken game, you take away their scoreboard. And when you surround yourself with people who see your success as a reason to celebrate instead of compete, you'll notice something powerful. Winning feels lighter, freer, and a whole lot more joyful when no one's trying to turn it into a race. When someone avoids giving you genuine credit, it's not always obvious at first. They might acknowledge your success in a vague way, but they'll attach it to something other than your hard work. Instead of saying, "You did an amazing job," they might say, "You got lucky," or "The timing just worked out for you." They may even give credit to other people entirely, downplaying your role and making it seem like you just happened to be in the right place at the right time. This behavior is often rooted in envy or discomfort. For some people, praising you directly feels like admitting you're ahead of them in some way, and that's something their pride won't allow. So they take the indirect route, stripping away the effort, skill, or persistence that made your achievement possible, leaving only the parts that feel less impressive. It's a subtle form of minimization, but over time, it can make you feel like your hard work isn't seen or valued. You might notice it when you accomplish something that took significant dedication. Maybe you trained for months to run a marathon, and instead of recognizing the discipline it took, they say, "Yeah, but you've always been naturally athletic." Or you land a big client at work and they respond with, "Well, that's because the market's been good lately." The message is clear in their eyes. Your results aren't the product of your skill or persistence. They're the product of circumstance. Avoiding giving you genuine credit can also take the form of group praise. They'll lump you in with others, saying things like, "The whole team did a great job," even if you were the one who led the effort or solved the hardest problem. While teamwork is important, consistently erasing individual contributions is a way to blur the lines of recognition so that your impact is harder to see. The effect of this is deeper than just feeling unappreciated. Over time, you may start second, guessing whether your accomplishments are actually yours to claim. You might feel uncomfortable celebrating yourself because you've been conditioned to believe that your success is always shared, circumstantial, or not entirely earned. That's exactly why people who do this get away with it. They count on you to downplay yourself so they don't have to do it for you. The truth is, giving genuine credit doesn't cost anything. It takes nothing away from someone else to say, "You worked hard for this and you deserve it." But when a person consistently avoids doing that, it's because they see your recognition as a loss for themselves. In their mind, lifting you up lowers their own standing, and they're unwilling to take that perceived risk. The way to handle this isn't to argue for your credit. That often just fuels their resistance. Instead, focus on surrounding yourself with people who notice and acknowledge your effort without hesitation. People who understand that appreciation isn't a competition will never hesitate to give you your due. And for those who withhold credit, don't let their silence make you doubt yourself. You know how much work you put in. You know the obstacles you overcame. You know the nights you stayed up late, the mornings you pushed yourself, and the moments you almost gave up but didn't. Their refusal to recognize that doesn't erase it. In fact, sometimes the lack of acknowledgement says more about their character than your capability. Your achievements are real. Your effort is real. And you don't need someone else's approval to validate either one. When you hold on to that truth, their unwillingness to give you credit stops being a wound and starts becoming proof that you're doing something worth noticing. When someone seems uncomfortable with your growth, it often reveals itself in small but telling ways. At first, they might have been supportive when you were at the same level as them in career, habits, mindset, or even lifestyle. But as you begin to change, improve, and step into new territory, their attitude shifts. They may not outright criticize you, but you start to notice the absence of genuine enthusiasm. The congratulations feel half-hearted, the conversations feel strained, and their presence feels less warm than before. This discomfort usually comes from the fact that your growth disrupts the balance they were used to. Some people prefer relationships where both parties remain in familiar roles, where no one is outgrowing the other. When you start aiming higher, learning more, or achieving things they haven't, it can make them feel left behind. Instead of being inspired, they feel threatened. Your progress becomes a mirror reflecting their own lack of change, and that's a hard thing for some to face. You'll often hear it in subtle comments. They might say things like, "You've changed," with a tone that suggests it's a bad thing. They might joke about you acting different or forgetting where you came from. On the surface, these remarks seem harmless, but underneath, They're designed to pull you back into the version of yourself they were comfortable with. Sometimes their discomfort shows up in how they engage with you. They may stop inviting you to certain things because they assume you wouldn't be interested anymore. Or they might exclude you from conversations where your new experiences or skills could naturally shine. They create distance, not because you've rejected them, but because they're preemptively protecting themselves from feeling inadequate around you. This kind of reaction can be painful because it often comes from people you care about, friends, family, or colleagues who were part of your earlier journey. You might even feel guilty for growing, as if your progress is a betrayal of the shared history you have with them. That guilt can tempt you to shrink yourself, to downplay your ambitions, or to avoid talking about your achievements just to make them comfortable again. But here's the truth: real connection survives growth. People who genuinely care about you will adapt to your changes, even if it challenges them. They may need time to adjust, but they won't try to make you feel bad for evolving. Those who can't handle your growth are showing you the limits of the relationship, and as much as it hurts, that's valuable information. The healthiest way to deal with this is to stay grounded in your reasons for growing. Remind yourself why you started, whether it was for personal fulfillment, to break old patterns, or to create a better future. Your journey isn't about proving anyone wrong or leaving people behind. It's about becoming the best version of yourself. If others feel uncomfortable, that's their work to do, not yours. It's also worth noting that some people will come around over time. Initial discomfort can turn into admiration once they see that your growth doesn't erase your loyalty, kindness, or shared history. But you can't pause your progress waiting for that shift to happen. Growth will always change the dynamics in your relationships. Some bonds will strengthen, others will fade. That's the natural process of life. The ones meant to stay will learn to walk alongside you, even if it means adjusting their pace. And the ones who can't will drift away, leaving you with the space to meet new people who aren't afraid of your evolution, but inspired by it. When someone keeps you in a box, they're essentially holding on to an outdated version of who you are and refusing to let you grow beyond it. They remember your mistakes, your insecurities, and your lowest moments, and they use those as the boundaries for how they see you. No matter how much you've improved, learned, or evolved, they frame you through the lens of your past. It's as if they've decided your story is already written, and you're not allowed to turn the page. You might hear it in the way they speak to you. They bring up old failures in casual conversation, often as a joke or a reminder. They use phrases like, "That's not really you," or "You've never been good at that." Whenever you try something new, they might even dismiss your current achievements by referencing the person you used to be, as if your past automatically defines your present. While they might claim they're just keeping you grounded, what they're really doing is anchoring you to a version of yourself you've already outgrown. This behavior often comes from their own comfort zone. If they've always known you a certain way, the shy one, the struggling one, the person who didn't aim too high, your growth forces them to rethink the dynamic they've relied on. In some cases, your evolution threatens their sense of identity, especially if they've built part of their confidence on feeling ahead of you. By keeping you in a box, they maintain the familiar balance where they feel secure. Over time, being treated this way can be incredibly limiting. You start questioning whether you're capable of more, not because you lack ability, but because the people closest to you keep reinforcing the idea that you're not that kind of person. It's like trying to run while someone's quietly tying weights to your ankles. The restriction isn't obvious, but it's constant. The danger is that if you hear this message often enough, you might start to believe it. You might avoid new opportunities or talk yourself out of risks because you've been conditioned to think you don't belong outside that box. This is why it's so important to recognize when it's happening and take back control of your narrative. Breaking out of the box starts with refusing to let the past dictate your potential. Yes, you've made mistakes. Yes, you've been different in the past, but growth means you're not meant to stay there. You have the right to evolve, to try new things, and to redefine yourself as many times as necessary. That's not being fake, that's being human. It also means setting boundaries with the people who insist on seeing you only through the lens of who you used to be. You don't have to argue with them or convince them to update their opinion. Instead, you can limit how much influence their voice has in your decisions. Sometimes that means reducing how much you share about your plans. Other times, it means surrounding yourself with people who see you for who you're becoming, not just who you were. The truth is, anyone who truly respects you will celebrate your growth instead of trying to keep you small. They will understand that the past was just one chapter and that the story isn't finished yet. And as you keep stepping out of the box others try to keep you in, you'll find that the people worth keeping close are the ones who hand you the pen and encourage you to write the next part of your story on your own terms.